I want to know what stuck out to you for because I haven't heard anybody like I've heard people say, "Oh, these movies are pandering," especially with the Marvels. Um, you know,
Mhm.
there's kind of the plot is wonky. All the characters are being like race and gender swapped. But how do you, in particular, feel like they dropped the ball at representation here? Like, what would have been a good example, like a kind of a more authentic example for maybe having uh like authentic storylines, basically what where it's like, women of color or like well, yeah, what they were trying to do here with, I guess, Ms. Marvel, who is Indian. It's like, okay, they had the whole Bollywood scene. Shouldn't that be enough,
Yes.
Vex?
That scene was a fucking slap in the face. I think, like, if you're talking specifically, like, brown representation, I think the best example I can think of, like, at least in the last 20 odd years, was, like, Bend It Like Beckham. I don't know if you remember that movie at all.
Oh my gosh, that's a throwback. That's when we were first introduced to
Yeah.
our darling Keira Knightley.
Right. So, like, even though, yes, it was the whole story was centered on women, it was primarily like this lower class Indian girl who was, even though she was born and raised in England, she still was getting you like not getting used to, but was working her way into, I guess, the more mainstream kind of social groups and
But
whatnot.
also
And also, it was a matter of her very like culturally strict parents getting used to the idea of their kids kind of blending in to Western culture and accepting the fact that she has dreams outside of just being a wife, a mother, a doting woman. So if we're talking about brown representation and good character arcs, that was a really good example where you got the best of both worlds. You got a really authentic look at what a South Asian family is like. And at the same time, you got an arc that actually is very relatable. Like, I've even encountered that to a certain degree here in Canada because my parents came here from Sri Lanka and I'm technically a first generation Canadian. So that's how you could do it right. I don't know. I didn't see Miss Marvel, so I can't adequately critique how they decide to explore the story there. But in the way that the Khan family is put on the screen in the Marvels, I'm just kind of like, this is not at all like what brown families are like. Like, you don't have sons that just live at home without a wife. Like, he would be getting
that's
whipped like
Italians.
18 ways to Sunday.
Right.
There there you go, right? And even just like the scene when they were fighting in the house, and then the brother and the husband decide to come in and try to strangle a galactic warrior with a mop. I'm like, this isn't what brown families are like whatsoever. They would not be putting up with the shit that Kamala Khan is doing, like putting on an outfit, going out and crime fighting. So I'm just, I was very disappointed, and like, they can't. It's just skin color. That's really all they care about. They don't care about authenticity past that.
Do you think it would have been possible for the MCU to have authentic brown representation, or do you think they just didn't put time into it, didn't care? It seems like in what you've described in your video that they're just taking Western standards and just adapting them to colorful faces and being like, "Here isn't we did the thing."
That's all. It's lazy. That's all it is. If even if they wanted to have just, regardless of the whole skin color and representation angle, if you just wanted a good female character, it's lazy even in that respect because they're just fillers almost for a story, and we're supposed to just be proud that it's a woman standing there, but there's nothing interesting or relatable about any of them. Even if we just go back to Captain Marvel, that movie is god awful, and that had far more politics than this one did, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think I can tell they made some adjustments between Captain Marvel and the Marvels. I think they tried to explain almost Bree's unlikability. It's almost like they shaped her more like, well, maybe she's just autistic. Maybe she's just socially strange and she doesn't understand how female friendship works and she doesn't understand how to open up and be vulnerable. But at the same time, she wasn't really great at like being a strong ass kicker either. Like, they all seem to,
Yep.
like, not really know how their own powers work and when and how to use them. And I love that you called this a
which is the
beef
best
curtain
part of the Marvels.
fiesta. You're like, oh God, the power of accessories. You can transport yourself across the universe.
Mhm.
That's what a nice gold cuff can do for you. So it's oh, it was abysmal, and I really do think that they made an attempt to explain away. Well, it's not that she's just unlikable and a flat performer, both physically and on screen,
Mm.
but they were just like, well, I guess she's sort of awkward, and that'll have to do with everyone for now. And I loved your point that you brought up, like why bring them together? Why bring all these female characters together in the Marvels if you're not going to actually bond them? Like they don't bond by simply being in scenes together. Like it's almost
Mhm.
like the same kind of laziness that you pointed out with the representation. It's laziness in terms of like, well, these are just women together in scenes. So there we go.
Mhm.
This is girl power. This is girl bossing. What else do you want from us? It's like, do they think the viewer
Nailed.
is
Yeah,
stupid?
that's all it is.
Do they think the viewer is stupid and that these things won't be analyzed and they won't be compared to like the actually very good movies and the stories that have been built up over the last 10, 15 years? Do they just not care about
Well,
the viewer?
I think it's a combination of multiple factors. So there's one, like, this movie wasn't going to perform well whatsoever if you just take away the trajectory of how Marvel has been doing in general like since Endgame. None of their movies, maybe some of them have broken the 1 billion, but they haven't been particular favorites of anyone's, right? So there's that. They are definitely still getting that, ESG money behind the scenes. And on top of that, another point I believe I made in that video was that this very much feels like this was two or three movies that were spliced together to try and just throw something out there because they needed another, like some other movie out there, or because they had promised that this character was going to be in something, or contractual obligations. um so I think there was supposed to be at least another movie or a show at best that was supposed to fill in some of the gaps, because I think yesterday or the day before, Iman Vellani went into an interview, or there was an interview where apparently Valkyrie and Captain Marvel had a romantic relationship. That would have been maybe
What? I
interesting
have to
to
find
explore.
this.
Yeah,
I would have loved the
yeah,
lezzing out scene.
because that would explain why she showed
I
up.
I sat through Bros, I think I could handle a little gentle space scissoring. Let me see if I can pull this up. Valkyrie
Right.
lesbian. I have to find this. Are Captain Marvel and Valkyrie dating?
I think that would have better explained why Valkyrie was there.
Yes, why was she there? She showed up like she was ready to help her move. I was like, this is very lesbianic undertones here. Why did she just show? Did she jealous? She showed up very much suddenly and abruptly like a lesbian. I was like, what's happening? Are they in a fight? Sure enough, yes, the Marvels may have
Mhm.
just made this power couple canon. This movie came out just a couple weeks ago. This article. Let's face it, the Marvels is a lot of fun, but it has some plot problems. You think the film has a lot of elements that feel shoehorned in. There's one extraneous scene though. I'm thrilled the studio included. Why? Because it means a fan favorite relationship may have just become canon. Valkyrie's cameo in the Marvels explained. Okay, in the final trailer for the Marvels, we see Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, friend of Thor and king of New Asgard, giving Carol an inspirational speech. Fun, but Val's cameo in the film is even better than the trailer. Okay, but why? Yes, she shows up really just to take uh some of the folks that were, I guess, working on the ship just to get them out of there. And that was it. She showed up like a Uber XL, really. Just to bring people
Pretty
away, and then
much,
that was it.
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Val congratulates Carol on
But
Friday.
like
Yes.
I would have appreciated seeing that, because there were some other like lesbian undertones that come through in the film as well, which I didn't notice until I was kind of going through clips later. Like there's a scene where they're all like they realize that all of their powers interchange, so they decide to like throw that ball to try and like get their timing right, right? And when Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel switch places for the first time, Conveniently, Kamala Khan is thrown onto the bed.
Yes,
Just
why
putting two and
was
two together.
that happening? Like, this is not, I don't know,
Right.
do lesbians throw each other on the bed or maybe like push someone up against aisle 7 of a Home Depot? I don't know how it works, but I found it very strange that she was being thrown onto
There
a
you
bed out of
go.
nowhere. Yeah. Right. So Val shows up in a well-tailored suit, and tie. That's sign number 1. She congratulated Carol on
Mm-hmm.
finding a team, and she said you can stand tall without standing alone. This to me sounded like a vibrator commercial. Before she leaves, she takes Carol's hand and kisses her on the cheek. That moment is not just a friendly gesture. There's definitely something special between Val and Carol, which we never got to see. If you guys are, these people are like, oh, how can we get more men to see the Marvels? Yeah, have them les out. That'll get some buzz. That'll get women there. So are
Mm-hmm.
they dating or what? They're kind of just, I guess, leaving it up to the viewer, which is boring. I would like to see, but maybe that would hurt their sort of more conservative audiences, maybe like in China, right? Because they've had to kind of erase certain characters off posters in the past. So I don't know if they could handle full blown makeout scene.
Yeah, but also if China is a concern, then you shouldn't have a black woman as one of your 3 protagonists. Or a
Right.
Muslim for
True.
that fact if we're thinking about what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know. Pick who you're gonna pander to. It's so tricky to be the MCU. Oh, Samuel the Infamous, thank you for the orange boy. Pretty sure magic bracelets are harem. Haram. I'm saying that wrong. I don't even know what it means, but it sounds
It's all right. It's all relative.
okay. Gord King, hello. Thank you for the super chat. Hearing Valkyrie cry, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," would be pretty amazing. Yeah, they should have had some more lesbian action. But what do I know? I'm not a writer. I'm not a
No,
Kathleen
I
Kennedy.
never want to see Tessa Thompson. Nope. Nope.
You don't feel represented?
There's many other women I would prefer. No, many other women that I would rather see in a lesbian sex scene, and Tessa Thompson and her 6 head is not one of them.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen her smile. Well, her character is not very smiley. She's a strong, competent lesbian.
Yeah.
So, and I love the point that you
Mhm.
brought up. You said there's so many great sort of female-led, female written, directed films. But the Marvels and the last couple of the MCU are what people will remember when they think of female directed or female driven films. And it reminded me so much uh of when I hear people say like, "Well, I normally can't stand female stand-up comics," and they always mention Amy Schumer. Like that's Amy Schumer is most people's default female stand-up comedy example. And most people haven't even seen her perform. They just know of her. And it just makes it a lot it kind of
Mhm.
makes it a lot harder for those of us who are like out here trying to not be stereotypical. So, I mean, do you think they can come back from this? From everyone I talk to, it sounds like no. They're just gonna keep burning it into the ground.
I it d I'm in the middle. If mainstream Hollywood keeps going the direction it's going, then there is no coming back. But then you do have smaller studios like A24, for example, that are coming up and they're putting out movies like Talk to Me, which was a phenomenal horror film, and that is by a female director. And it even had like there was a transgender person cast in that film as well, but the politics was not the forefront, right? I think it's just if people are willing to move away from the mainstream, then yes, there's a very good chance you could undo it. But at the same time, there's also just like a lot of stigmas about just being a female in content creation generally that hold people back. Yeah, this was a really good film. I highly recommend that people
Ooh.
check this out if they can. Yeah.
Ooh.
I think it's coming to Netflix soon as well.
How did you see it? Was it in Canada early? Or maybe it's out already. I haven't even heard of
Um
this.
it's out already, but I like to sail the seas a lot for many things, so we'll leave it at that.
I'm just picturing you in a little sailor costume. Um, yes, you are sailing the seas. You're out and about, and we'll definitely talk about that on the next subject for sure. Yeah, I there were a lot of cringy moments in the Marvels. I love that you pointed out how obvious the reshoots were, and this is something only I feel like women and gays would be able to see. And then you were able to pick up on the very like the very definitive changes in their makeup from cut to cut, and you were like, yeah, that's a telltale
Mhm.
sign of just how many reshoots they had to do. And this movie was pushed back quite a bit, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yes, I think 3 or 4 times.
Whew. And yeah, a lot crammed in, plots abandoned. I've heard different folks say that the Marvels could have been that it was several kind of storylines in one, and that maybe it would have been better suited to be a TV series or like a show rather than a movie. But they're probably like, we got to have Brie
Yes.
Larson on for 2 movies. Let's just let's just bang this out.
Just get it out there and we're done and over with it. Yeah,
Just
no, this
yeah.
would have worked far better as a TV series. If anything, they should have like I gave up 2 episodes into Secret Invasion, but that would have
Me
been a
too,
really good opportunity to
I
for
only
at the
watched
very
2 episodes of that, and I couldn't. I was like,
right?
I wanted to, but I couldn't.
Right. So it's just like at the very least, like you can take advantage of like Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel and throw their storylines in there because already they're so intertwined with the Kree anyways.
Right.
Like missed opportunity galore.
And then the Kree in the Marvels were, like, very overlooked, I thought, like, just there to be there, like, "Oh, sorry, they sort of got tricked, and then they were gone." It just I just thought, what was the point of even having them in the Marvels?
There was the best part, like this was my absolute favorite part of the movie, and I can't stop thinking about it, is that without saying it like out loud, they were totally okay with Carol committing like planetary genocide just to save the Kree for the last like 30, 40 years. I thought that was brilliant. I love it. It's women can really do no wrong.
It's really art reflecting real life because, it's like us throwing away our own country, to help fund wars that we have no business involving ourselves with.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, and women can do no wrong. Girl bosses forever.